And there we go. Susan Michelle, yes, mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. It's a nice sunny day. I just checked the thermostat. We're up to 80. I'm almost up to Myrna's temperature in Florida.
Oh
So
my.
exciting. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. And when I can really live A Course in Miracles, it's just such a beautiful state of mind to reside in. So I again listened to Course in Miracles for about an hour on Audible before this talk, and it's just such beautiful, beautiful information. Myrna is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, which is a great complement to Course in Miracles workbook for students, which I love, love, love. She was also the author of 6 other books, I believe, which is so amazing. How are you, Myrna?
Right now, I'm back up to snuff because I had the flu for about a week, but I'm feeling better. As my voice holds out, I'd love to kind of, of course, join you, but we'll see how long it can last. Today's the first day that my voice came back. But anyway, today's lesson is the perfect one. Sickness is a defense against the truth, so it works in well. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you're getting better with your root canal. You also had a little bit of a sidetrack, with your tooth.
Yeah, I had a root canal a couple days ago, and my tooth feels so much better right now, which I am so grateful for. And Glorian is here with us also in Great Neck, New York. I believe you are, Glorian, not so far from me, a few hours. How
Absolutely.
are you, Glorian?
I'm well. I'm doing very well. I'm glad to be here with both of you. And I'm sorry to hear you aren't feeling well, Myrna, but so glad that you are here and your tooth is better,
Okay.
Susan. It's very rainy here and it has been, so we're seeking that sunshine within. That's the only choice we have. It's been raining for days, but that's okay. The flowers are growing, right? Thanks.
So I will start out with the introduction of my book, which I always like to do. Kind of gets my juices flowing. And it basically summarizes in my mind what A Course in Miracles is teaching us. What I write is I write, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in the world because, as A Course in Miracles teaches us, there is no world. The external experiences that we have are nothing more than a reflection of an internal condition. That's why it's so important to keep ourselves plugged into our God socket as often as possible. You know what I learned? I learned that A Course in Miracles does not have the word surrender in it. Another Course in Miracles teacher mentioned that the word surrender was not in A Course in Miracles, and that I believe that word kind of got downloaded to me or channeled to me for the title of my book. And then because I always like to check things out, I went into courseinmiraclesnow.com and typed in surrender in the search bar, and this Course in Miracles teacher was right. There is no word surrender in A Course in Miracles. I think there are other words with the same meaning, but it does not have the word surrender. And surrender, like in my mind, it's such a poignant word, because like for me, it's all about surrendering to a power greater than myself. I feel like that is where my peace, love, joy, and happiness comes from, when I can surrender to a power greater than myself, because God's will for me is perfect. Oh, happiness. And then Dove just wrote, thank you, Dove. That's because Helen did not like the word surrender. Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, because A Course in Miracles got channeled through Helen Schuckman, and Bill Thetford was a co-scribe, as we all know. And when Helen Schuckman is not the only person that can download the words of Jesus. I mean, Jesus can speak through any one of us when we really allow our vibration to elevate itself, when we can just connect to that power of love. I mean, Jesus can talk through a lot of people, not only Helen Schuckman. But when Jesus speaks through a person, he speaks in a way that is comfortable to the person that he is speaking through, like their personality comes into what they are saying. So I think that's very interesting. Helen just did not like the word surrender. If it was, see, when Jesus channels himself through me, I just love the word surrender. Because for me, it's all about me, releasing my ego, releasing my fear, and surrendering to a power greater than myself. And it's just so very beautiful. I mean, today, when I was listening to Course in Miracles on Audible, I was in the section where Jesus was talking about how we are more afraid of light than we are of darkness. Darkness is what we're used to. Darkness is what is the world that we're living in is teaching. I mean, the world is run on an egoic thought system. So most of us are more afraid of light than we are of darkness. So A Course in Miracles is kind of chipping away at the blocks. And when the egoic thoughts, when we can identify these egoic thoughts, and we can just pray and give them to the Holy Spirit, we can release our blocks and get closer and closer to the light. But on a deep level, there's a fear of connecting to what we want. We want to be at one with God. We want to be at one with peace. We want to be at one with love, but there's a part of us that's scared of it. That's why it's kind of a gradual process as we grow closer to the light and the love and the joy that is within us. Any thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah, I like that. Surrender is a very powerful word. I really, I like the word very much because, you're giving it over. To me, it's a very peaceful word. It's giving our self over to God, over to the Holy Spirit. We're not in control. We're recognizing that. And we surrender to God. It's letting God know that we give him all power, that we're relinquishing that to him. So I to that word, a lot of thought comes to my mind. So, you're right. Not only Helen Schuckman, but others can, certainly personalize what Jesus is saying in their own thoughts. And yeah, that's the way it is.
Gloria?
Yeah, I love what you shared there, Myrna, about that, turning it over to spirit. That is what surrender is. It's the asking, it's the willingness. And I too, Susan, have had someone come to me about using the word surrender. And I just love the name of your book, Surrender to Joy. I think it really encompasses it all, that we're giving up our fear and we're moving into the joy, which is what we are. For joyful living, we can only be joyous if we accept our truth and our reality. But when I look at the word surrender, and of course, the Infinite Way does use surrender, um, which really means in the course, let us allow the willingness. I mean, it's a matter of semantics, and Jesus tells us that words are symbols. So we want to get beyond those words and symbols that we use to that experience of the willingness to allow spirit to reinterpret our false thinking for us. I mean, however we have to say it, it means the same thing, to die daily to that personal sense of self, which is how it would be said in the Infinite Way. And I've had someone say to me, I don't like that word die. But the idea is then let go of your false concepts, whatever it takes to get us home. And in the Course, Jesus talks about the blocks to love's presence, our ideas of sin and guilt, judgments and grievances. These all have to be let go of or surrendered through the allowance and the willingness to say, I don't know, Spirit, show me. Yes, and I like what you were saying before, in that recognition that, Helen didn't like the word, and that's fine because it's a personal unfoldment, but we find something that works for us, and we do recognize that we're all instruments for the Christ mind. That's our goal here, to move into where Jesus says trust. The foundation of God's teachers is trust. So the trusting is moving into our divinity, and that beingness, which is the Christ mind, that then we become that instrument for which love flows out through the world. And I think what you said is true, Susan, that we are afraid of love, and we're afraid of losing our autonomy, that false sense. And Jesus addresses this in the attraction of guilt. We want to recognize that we are drawn to this fear and guilt, which, through the atonement process we let go of. But the fear and guilt is what keeps us in this hellish experience. And I think the recognition that we're doing this to ourselves is so important, because then we're not victims of the world we see. We're empowered in that decision to choose a different way. And this is the practice that we do daily, moment to moment, making that choice to let go or surrender to the fear in acceptance of the love that I am. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
And Dove wrote in the chat room, love is not an emotion, it's pure awareness. This is a quote from Ken Wapnick. Unconditional love or perfect awareness is another name for God. God has no name. Lesson 184. That's true. That's very true. I mean, God doesn't care what you call him. You can call him anything you want to, but God is the essence of unconditional love, which is the essence of joy. Lately today, I've been just really focusing on that joy, focusing on that loving state. And it's amazing how we can tap into it when we focus upon it, because it is very apparent to me that that is my true nature. Unconditional love is the essence of who I am, and it is so beautiful. It's all about releasing the past. It's all about releasing the future. It's all about just embodying fully the present moment and embodying the essence of innocence. I love that affirmation. I embody the essence of innocence. It's interesting because I was watching the news, which I have a tendency to do lately. And there was a commercial And it was a famous born again Christian pastor. His name doesn't matter. I actually can't even remember his name, but he was reciting the core philosophy of traditional Christianity. And that is a huge trigger for me because it completely contradicts everything that A Course in Miracles teaches. Just like Glorian said, in order to feel the essence of who we are, we need to release sin, we need to release guilt, we need to release judgment. That is not of God, that is of the ego. That's what keeps us in the darkness, and this this born again Christian pastor, who's again very famous, started saying a prayer to God. Dear God, I know I am a sinner. Like, that's how he started the prayer. I know I am a sinner. And to me, that's blasphemous. God does not see me as a sinner. God sees me as completely and totally innocent. So that prayer doesn't even make sense. He goes on to say, I know I am a sinner, and you sent your only son, Jesus, to die for my sins. And if I do realize that he died because I was bad, I can be saved. And I was just, to be completely transparent, I was triggered. I don't know if I will be completely transparent, but I was just majorly triggered by this, because this, again, is the foundation of the traditional Christian thought system. This is how I was raised, and it triggers me. Now, I know Jesus wouldn't be triggered by this, but for me, it's so illogical that I can't understand why people would feel drawn to that thought system, because for me, it's very anxiety provoking. I feel very guilty for thinking that Jesus had to suffer because I was bad. It just provokes a lot of guilt in me, and it does nothing for my state of consciousness. It doesn't elevate my state of consciousness. It lowers my state of consciousness. So for me, it's all about the innocence. It's not about the guilt. The innocence is of God. The innocence is who I am. The guilt is of the ego, and the guilt is what keeps me tied to the world today. So I guess to understand what traditional Christianity teaches, or to understand the talking points of a thought system that doesn't make sense, helps me understand or embody what does make sense. Because what does make sense to me is that innocence is who I am, and mistakes from the past, God doesn't hold me accountable for those. All I need to do is release them and let them go. Today, when I was listening to Course in Miracles, Jesus was channeling, when you hold your brother accountable for any past mistakes, you're keeping yourself tied to the egoic thought system. What you need to do is just let the past go and see your brother for who he is right here, right now. And the same is true for ourselves. When we hold ourselves accountable for any mistakes we made in the past, we're denying the present. We're denying the truth of who we are. We're denying all the joy that is available to us right here, right now, if we just focus upon the innocence. Right, Myrna?
Yes, that brings us right back to the word surrender, doesn't it? It just brings us back to that, just surrender to it, just surrender to God's love. And that's, to me, that's really what it's all about. Love. It's all about love. The Course in Miracles says that we're afraid of love. And why is that? To me, it seems that we're afraid of love because God's love is completely unconditional, whereby our love, the ego's love, is limited. So, when it's limited, it's based in based on the egoic thought system. And how can we rely on that? How can we depend on that kind of love? So, in a way, as the Course has indicated, that it's really a form of hate. In other words, the way the ego loves is really a form of hate, because it's not all encompassing. It's not the love that God wants us to share. The love that we can experience from God, if we open up to it and surrender to it, leaves us no room for anything other than the truth, the absolute, wholeness of the infinite love. I mean, you can't even describe it because it's so extraordinary. So infinite love and experiencing God's love is so indicative of what we're here to learn, what we're here to really appreciate. And, it's gotten to and I think I've mentioned this to you, when I think of God and I think of his love, do you know that my body literally goes like that? It's almost as if my body is just reacting to that notion, that extraordinary feeling of the quality of what I'm experiencing, and that is God's love. I mean, there's no describing it, it's just feeling it. And when we can extend that, it certainly is what it's all about. That feeling that I just described at first really kind of frightened me a little, when I would think of God and get into that emotional state of who I really am. My body would react that way. It scared me at first, but now I've come to love it. I love that. I've accepted it. Love it. Love that. And I just let it go when it happens. It's something that you can't describe. You can only feel. Thank you.
Gloria?
Wow, thank you, Myrna, for that expression and example of the way you receive presence. And I think it's important to recognize we all receive that a little differently. And it's hard to put it into words because it is an experience. And, for me, it comes through as a warmth, a presence, like a feeling of warmth through, like, for lack of, like the chakra system, I'll feel that warmth of presence. But it manifests differently for everyone in different ways because this is our individual journey. I like how we began about talking about love, and Dove put into the chat about Ken that it's not an emotion, but it's an experience. So it's not the feeling, is perception. The experience is beingness, isness, which is the oneness of what we are in truth. And again, when we surrender to joy, it's synonymous with love. Love, peace, joy, grace is all synonymous in the presence of what I am. And when we recognize that the miracle the miracle is that shift from fear to love, to that experience of love, of oneness and beingness, which is beyond words and thoughts. It's an experience that comes to us from that fourth dimensional consciousness. So when we let go of our ideas of sin and guilt, as we were speaking before, and fear that we're projecting out there, we're willing to let go of our story in that quiet mind of that holy instant. We receive the experience of the love that we are, that is from out of time, that cannot be described because it's infinite, invisible oneness. And Dove put in the chat too that I'm not sure, but I think it's the same thing, that the universal theology is impossible because it's part of thinking and perception, but a universal experience is necessary. And that is this infinite, visible I am presence that's moving into that recognition of our divine self, the Christ mind of our immaculate self that is without change. And I like the story you told Susan about the gift from the fundamental Christian pastor, because it is a gift. Because when we look at these ideas of sin and punishment, which are basically just we're so free in that recognition that the sin is a mistake and it merely needs to be corrected, and we're not damned because of it. And that's just a blessing to recognize that this is the upside down thinking of the world, and what Jesus offers us in the Course and in some other sacred teachings, where we move into this reality of the fact that the Christ cannot be crucified. The Christ cannot be in sin. The Christ cannot be punished. So when we recognize that all of these seeming institutions that we see out there in the world, churches, whatever we want to say, are really under the authority of the ego, then we're blessed to recognize that we don't have to partake in that. We don't have to believe that anymore, because we want our life to be directed under the authority of the Christ. And the only thing that we need to do is to change our mind about who we think we are. So when I hear, these self-righteous judgments and projections, which we do seemingly see them as that, and it's important to recognize that we do see it, but then we recognize it as error. And we choose again for his righteousness, which is pure equality of God's Son. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that, Glorian, that when we see the self-righteous projections, I mean, that's what it is, with some of this traditional Christian teaching. It's self-righteous projections. A lot of our own unhealed emotions are getting projected onto a false god. They have judgment in themselves that has not been released. So they project their own judgment onto a false god, onto God. And again, that is a trigger for me, because as a Course in Miracles student, I know that God is incapable of condemnation or judgment of any kind. I still have condemnation in me. I still have fear in me, but God has none in him. So it's interesting how that works. Yeah, and I like what Glorian read and what Dove wrote in the chat room. I think that's just very wise, and it's helping me to read it. Dove wrote about 20 minutes ago, a universal religious experience is impossible, yet a universal shared experience is both possible and necessary. Jesus in the introduction to the clarification of terms. So, yeah, the religious it's so dogmatic. It doesn't take us to that place of unconditional love. It's not an intellectual place. It's a place of surrendering to a higher state. And I've felt it, I've felt it on so many occasions in this lifetime, and it's just so beautiful. I've been focusing a lot on that lately, to this experience of just being, just knowing that everything is okay, knowing that fear serves no purpose in my life. What is fear? False evidence appearing real. It's not true. This morning it was kind of funny. I was running at the reservoir. The weather is really beautiful for running lately. It's a little warmer now in the morning, so it's not perfect anymore, but it's still pretty good. I think it was about 65 degrees when I started running. And yesterday's lesson, okay, today's lesson is about sickness. Sickness is a defense against the truth. as Myrna said. And yesterday's lesson 135, was if I defend myself, I am attacked. And so I was running along, and there's all these geese at the reservoir now, and what happens is they have their babies in this season, and they're very protective of the baby geese. So you have to be very careful when you run past the little goose families, because if you don't stay far away from them, the father goose, he feels the need to protect the children, and he runs after you. Now I've never been attacked. I've never been bitten by a goose, but from what I hear, it's not fun. So anyway, I was running along the reservoir, and there were two geese. I didn't see any babies, so I didn't think they would get aggressive. But all of a sudden, I run by, and one of the geese start running after me, and I get scared, and I run faster to try to get away from him. And I thought of yesterday's lesson: if I defend myself, I am attacked. So these little geese, they definitely, I guess, are not Course in Miracles students, because they always feel the need to attack, but it's just that attack is based on fear. I mean, they're afraid that I am going to hurt their babies, so they feel the need to attack me. And I think that's what we do too when we attack our brothers. We feel afraid, we feel the need to protect ourselves. So we feel like if we can attack first, we're going to be protecting something that we hold dear. But that's just not true. A Course in Miracles is teaching us that there is no reason to attack anyone ever. If anyone, going back to the goose, I'm not saying I'm going to hang around and let the goose bite me, but in life, if someone verbally attacks us, we don't have to defend our position. What they're doing is they're just calling for love. And if we can return their fearful attack with love, that is what they are craving. And that's a gift, because if we can return fear for love, not only can we soothe our brother, can we heal? That's the word. Can we heal our brother? We can heal ourselves, because we don't know what's in our own mind until we give it away. That's why we need our brothers to get back to heaven. We walk into heaven 2 by 2. We need our brothers to get into heaven, because we don't know what's in ourselves until we give it away. So if we are attacked, I mean, basically it's the verbally, it's the perfect lesson. We just need to learn to love. I remember last week, I had this incident at the gym that I brought here and I talked about in Pal Talk, where one of the representatives that worked at one of the gyms I go to, Planet Fitness, came up to me when I was on the treadmill, and she told me to stop talking on the phone. And this really triggered me, because I didn't like her telling me what to do. Now, I saw her today at the gym, and it's so interesting how that works, because there's a part of me that still wants to hold on to that grievance, well, I was victimized and I have the right to be angry, and that's like my ego, and that part of me is still there, but that's not of God. God wants to not forgive her. God wants me to just erase it like it didn't happen. and God wants me to extend love to her. And I tried them both. I started holding on to the grievance, and I felt like my heart tighten up. And then I kind of chose to let that go, and I chose to send love to her. And it was such a beautiful feeling to tap into. It wasn't about forgiving her. It was about erasing the mistake. Was it a mistake? I don't know. But all I know, for my own happiness, I need to forgive. For my own happiness, I need to extend love to my brother. Thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah, I like everything that you said. Everything that you brought out is really Course in Miracles, because that's what the Course in Miracles aims to teach us. That's what we study. We study that. We study letting go of grievances, not to hold on to anything. Because when we're holding on to a grievance, we become then dedicated to the ego thought system. And it's always a constant, back and forth between ego and spirit, ego and spirit. And if we're really so connected to the ego that we can't let go of a grievance, then it's not really giving us any form of growth in the field of becoming aware, okay, of our brother as my brother truly is, which is me. My brother is me. My brother is God. We're all one. And you begin to feel that when you can let go of the grievance and not hold on to, the feeling that we've been attacked. That's really what it is. And I think before you mentioned projection, which is really, projection is the process of attributing our own thoughts, beliefs, feelings onto the external world, onto our brother, our own belief system. So when we can start to recognize that we don't want to project, we want to extend ourselves, extend the love, the pattern of love that we've been given to feel by God. Then once we feel that, then nothing else matters. There's nothing we can, to me, there's no feeling of anything that I can hang on to that brings me back to the ego thought system, where, which represented anger, which represented being triggered. I'm not saying I'm not capable of feeling triggered. Of course I am, but it doesn't matter as long as I can let go of it and see that it's not of God. It's not of, it's not of the essence of who I want to be or of who I was created. I want to be who I truly am, and I want to feel that. I want to be in that place, because once you're in that place, you don't want to extricate yourself from it. It's too valuable. You've learned that you've become so completely aware, of who you are and of what you really are meant to do and what you're meant to extend, that, that nothing else matters. Everything else seems so small in comparison. So that's how I can recognize that. I like your little goose story. I love animals. So that is such a sweet little story. I mean, I would love that little goose to death. I really would. you know,
If he
yeah.
was running after you, Myrna, with it with an
No,
open mouth, that you would, well, we would.
well, what I did experience, which was really frightful, but when I think about it, it really isn't anymore. There was a rat actually that got into my house through apparently got into the attic through the roof. And then it was in my house, and I was brushing my teeth. I was all alone in my house, brushing my teeth. And this rat, not only did it run past me, but hit me in the foot. Okay. I mean, that was like, I mean, but even so, it really didn't. I think if this happened a few years ago, I think I probably would have been a basket case, but it really didn't affect me that way. It really didn't. I was only worried about how they were getting rid of the infestation that was happening through the roof. They were getting in through the crevices, of the roof, and I was really upset because the way they're trapped was really pretty sad, but there was no choice. So I'm connected. I am connected to all living things. I know that.
I'm going to
Yeah.
just interject briefly before Gloria, and if that's okay, because I just thought of this really funny happening that happened 2 days ago. My husband was on the phone and the garage door was open, and he saw all these birds, flying into the garage and out of the garage, into the garage, out of the garage. So he's trying to figure out why all these birds are going into our garage. He follows them to his motorcycle helmet. They had built a bird's nest inside his motorcycle helmet. So this whole bird family was flying into their nest and flying out. And so then he emptied out the motorcycle helmet and got rid of the bird nest. And then I think the birds got mad at him, but I thought that was so
Sure.
cute. I was like, why did you take away their nest? He says, they can't have a nest in my motorcycle helmet, but it was very funny.
That's funny.
So, is Glorian?
Oh, these stories are great. And I'm sitting here laughing because, I always say, oh, your triggers are your gifts. And you know how Dove always tells us, run towards your triggers. So you really do have to laugh. But the idea is that there is always a different way that we can look at everything. And that's our power, the power of choice, that we can choose to see everything in the
Yeah.
light of truth. What you were saying before, like we were talking about in the very beginning of this last segment, the world is made by the projection of fear and guilt, and this is to keep us separate. So once we recognize that they're images and it's an aspect of our imagination, that will disintegrate because it's not real. So the idea is to recognize that all of this is to maintain control, but we have a choice of how we can look at it. And this is showing us that upside down thinking that the world presents to us, so we can really dig deeper into that unconscious and bring it to consciousness and let it go. Where you were saying, Susan, only my condemnation injures me and my forgiveness sets me free. We take responsibility for sight by recognizing our condemnation. Our judgments are keeping us in the hellish experience, but our forgiveness, the choice not to judge, is what sets us free, and that power of decision is our own. So we don't, to me, we use everything. If we see it, we own it, we use it, and we use the ego to get out of the ego. But the whole idea too of forgiveness to destroy, that's what we were talking about before with self-righteous judgment. The forgiveness to destroy is self-righteous judgment. I'm going to forgive you because of I'm better or whatever have you. We want to move into his righteousness, true forgiveness. What my brother did never occurred. How can we attain that state? Only through the recognition of the quiet mind, choosing and being willing not to judge and not to have our projections out there. So we're relinquishing our projections, accepting what we are in truth, which is his righteous judgment, which is that God's son is sinless, guiltless, innocent. And Dove put something in the chat about the ark is entered 2 by 2. And that's how we enter the ark, in that recognition that I'm the Christ, and beyond the concept I see of my brother is the Christ. So then the two become one. We join that ark in the oneness of truth, where there is no separation, because we've made that choice not to project our guilt and our duality and our sin out there, which is what separates. So and someone mentioned something before about protection. So if we recognize protection, the only thing we really need to be protected from is the false ego thought system. That's the only thing that needs protection. So we recognize that every time we're in temptation, which we know by the way we feel, that we can make another choice about it. Immediately at that point of choice, we are willing to step back. We're looking, we're not looking at it. We're recognizing, we're looking. Then we're waiting, we're making that space, and we're choosing not to judge. And the only way that we can relinquish that judgment is by having Holy Spirit, the higher mind, to come in and reinterpret that for us as our mind is still. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. you started by saying that we should run towards our triggers, which is very wise, very insightful.
That was
As
dumb.
Dove has, yep, as Dove has said many times, our triggers are our teachers. There is something for us to learn. A Course in Miracles does not aim at teaching us the meaning of love because love is who and what we are. What Course in Miracles helps us do is identify our blocks so that we can release them. And underneath our blocks is the essence of love. Underneath our blocks is our true nature. And our triggers are showing us our blocks. So that is very wise. That is very clear. And Myrna says everything, everything in life is a lesson or a blessing. So our triggers are teaching us lessons that our soul needs to learn. What is the ego? The ego is easing God out, a little Course in Miracles acronym that I just recite every so often. I think I got that one like 25 years ago. And then also you said, Glorian, the world is made by the projection of fear and guilt. The world is run on the egoic thought system. It's just so apparent. It's so evident. And again, today I was starting to, again, just really focus on the love, focus on the love. So instead of focusing on the fear, I was just focusing on the love, even while driving, instead of like there was a car that was driving really, really slow. And instead of getting upset, I was just patient, which is good, and it was making me happier. And then I was trying to get around the car, and then there was a car behind me that instead of cutting me off, he kind of flashed a couple times like he was letting me go in front of him. And I thought that's interesting, right? Instead of getting aggravated as I do so many times when I'm driving, I just started extending love. And as I started extending that love started getting reflected back to me. Isn't that amazing how life works? Because when I'm angry, I notice angry drivers. And when I'm loving and patient, all of a sudden patience gets reflected back to me. I just thought of that as I was talking. It's just really amazing how life reflects back to you the dominant feeling, thought in your mind. The external world is nothing more than a reflection of an internal condition. So if I'm feeling patient, the universe is reflecting that back to me. And then something that Lynn put in the chat room quite some time ago, about a half an hour ago. I didn't read it, but I love it, love it, love it, love it. I read it in my mind. I didn't read it out loud. She wrote, Jesus is laughing. And I love that. I love that. I love the symbol of a laughing Jesus. We again, I always talk about that image in the traditional Christian church that I really, really, really don't like. It's the image of Jesus on a cross with nails through his hands, nail through his feet, with blood gushing out, and he's sacrificing his life and he's in pain. Oh, I hate that image. I really hate that image. And then the other famous teaching is of the Buddha, which I think Buddhism is great. I love the teachings of Buddha, and in their thought system, they have Buddha as a heavyset man laughing. I mean, I love that spiritual image. Well, why can't I see Jesus laughing, right? I mean, that's beautiful, because I think Jesus was a very happy man. How could you not be happy, when you know that You are one with God. How could you not be happy? I'm sure Jesus was a very, very happy man, and he still is. He still is filled with the joy of God. And that is what he is teaching us. You know, he is teaching us not to worship him, he is teaching us to be like him and to join him in his joyful state of mind. Because when I am connected to joy, when I am connected to the true essence of who I am, you know, God is happy. God is able to extend his love through me when I am filled with joy. So pain is not of God. Suffering is not of God. Sacrifice is not of God. None of those negative emotions are of God. Those are all based on fear. Those are all from the egoic thought system. It's the joy and the beauty and the love that comes from God. And that is the truth of who I am. And that is so beautiful. And we can tap into this emotion all the time if we so choose. The Course in Miracles teaches that there are two emotions, love and fear. Love makes us happy, fear does not. The choice of which emotion to embrace at each moment is up to us. You know, the more often I choose love, the happier I am and the happier God is, because I can't do God's work when I am in a fearful state of mind. I can only do God's work when my consciousness is elevated. That's when I can hear him, you know. So being happy is it's just it's a beautiful state to reside in. It's what A Course in Miracles is teaching me. And it's the only way to be a conduit for God's divine miracles and God's divine love. Right, Myrna?
Yes, you know, it reminds me of A Course in Miracles where it says, the Son of God remembered not to laugh. Um, and that refers to the moment where the illusion of separation of God was taken seriously. In other words, the illusion of separation from God was taken seriously. So it's really, you know, we have to keep on, you know, not taking everything so serious. And laughing is something that's very important. Recognizing that nothing is real, there is no bad or good except our thinking makes it so. So if we think somebody did something bad, it's only our thoughts that really are projected in that respect. So, you know, that's a very powerful statement in the Course of Miracles. You know, we recognize that the absurdity of it all, the absurdity of the world that we allow to us, you know, that allows us to become ensconced in the belief that we have to take everything seriously, that we and the that's where the ego really keeps us completely imprisoned, because that's the ego's hold on us. The recognition that you know, it can keep us kept in a state of consciousness where we believe in the separation. And when we believe in the separation, it's very hard to not take things seriously. We take everything seriously. So it's really a matter of, and I like that statement, you know, I try to go back to it often. The Son of God remembered not to laugh. That's when that's where all my troubles began. And that's where the world became enslaved in that particular thought system. So, you know, I like when you said that, just, you know, loosen up, lighten up. You know, we're here really to be happy. And that's what God wants. And God does laugh with us, really. You know, but what do they say? When we make plans, God laughs. Isn't that a well-known thought? Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to share with Susan. There's a gospel called the Gospel of Judas, and all you do is go to Google, enter the Gospel of Judas, and there's so many PDFs. the one that I originally got a long time ago, like 10, 12 years ago, because the Gospel of Judas was just found in the caves, about 30, 40 years ago. It was lost. Now, if you understand how the New Testament came to being, in the fourth century, they had a thing to have people start to understand Jesus. So they selected certain gospels, but they didn't select all the gospels. In the Gospel of Judas, it says that he was laughing all the time. And one of the lines which I love, Judas says, the other apostles always whispered, he's laughing like a child. I mean, he was always laughing, and none of the apostles, whether it was Peter or Paul or Mark, it doesn't matter, John, Matthew, they never wrote about his laughter. They only wrote about his hardships and the crucifixion and things like that. So you can do research on the Gospel of Judas. There are many varieties of it now. It originally came out about 30 years ago.
Thank you so much. I love that, Dove. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna study that. That's beautiful. What, Myrna?
I wanted to say one thing to Dove. It's funny, the Gospel of Judaism. One of the Gospels of Judaism that I always believed in was
it's not the Gospel of
well,
it's the Gospel of Judas. It's the Gospel of Judas, not of Judaism, I believe, Myrna. The Gospel of Judas.
Judas is one of the apostles.
Yes, okay.
He's the only one mentioned in A Course in Miracles because Jesus came back to straighten out the record. He said, my own apostles did not understand me at the time because of their own fear and guilt, or they could never possibly have heard me say, thou betrayest me with a kiss, about Judas, right, who was my brother and an equal son of God. I would never, and my whole life was about, I did not believe in betrayal. So why would I ever say that about my brother? So, the Christian religion has been slanted according to the apostles that they use for the New Testament.
Very interesting. Gloria?
Yeah, thank you for that, Dove. I'm going to look at that also. But I'm just going to say here that I know, I could just feel that Jesus must have laughed a lot because he knew there was no death. And he knew himself as eternal life, as he was created as love. And he tells us in the Course, God's will for me is perfect happiness. In perfect happiness, we're experiencing the oneness that we are, which could only be joy, which could only be laughter. Thanks so much.
Brief and to the point. Yeah. No, I just love the whole what Dove spoke about the laughter of Jesus, because we all know that when we are connected to the truth of who we are, it's such a beautiful state of mind to reside in. So how could you be enlightened and not be filled with joy? And it's always available to us. The only thing that's real is the love. It's almost 2:00. Any more thoughts, Myrna or Glorian?
This is a beautiful hour, really, with everyone.
I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you too, Glorian and Myrna. I love you so much. Thank you, Dove, for your shares. Oh my gosh, how beautiful is that? That is so beautiful. Dove just put a photo of a laughing Jesus in it's beautiful, beautiful, because to just
I don't see it. Where?
It's in the chat.
Okay.
It's a photo of a laughing Jesus, because that's how Jesus wants us to remember him.
Susan,
because when we are at laughing, we remember our joy. What, Dove?
I want to say, if you know how to control the picture, you can turn the picture into so everyone sees it.
I don't see it.
I think Lauren or Susan, I'm sure you know how to do that.
Not me.
Oh, I see it in the chat room. Oh, there you
Oh, I
go. Can you
love
see
it. I
it, Myrna
love
and
it.
Florian?
Yeah, I love that. I love
Yes,
that.
I love
Because
it.
I love Jesus so much. I love seeing him that way.
Dove,
Wow.
send that to me, Dove.
Yeah. I'm going to take a picture of that.
Yeah, maybe I should
Thank
do
you.
that.
I'm
That's a good.
taking a picture of it because I got to have that picture.
Available all over. Just Google the laughing Jesus picture,
Oh, okay. Oh, it's beautiful.
and they will send it to you for $10 or 15. I don't know, whatever. Google it.
Fabulous.
Well,
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Dove.
I mean, you can also take a picture of it. I'm
I'm
sorry.
taking a picture right now. But wait,
Okay.
I got it.
Maybe I'll take a picture too.
I know. Maybe I'll take a picture too. Good
Yeah, I
idea.
got a picture of it. I
Good
love it.
Smile,
idea.
Jesus. They're taking your picture.
I yeah.
You're saying
There he is.
cheese.
See that?
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I really do love it.
Yeah, it's
Wonderful.
really.
All right. I'm gonna turn it off now.
You put a smile on everybody's face, Steph.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's what I like. You gotta laugh.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful hour.
Thank you, Susan Michelle. Thank you all. And I'm just so grateful for you. And
Thank you. And Myrna and Gloria. That's how you let go of the ego. Smile and laugh, and your gentle laughter, you are healed. That's right out of the Course in Miracles.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
absolutely.
Take nothing in this world seriously. Nothing. This is the ego's world. It's hell. You take it seriously, you're giving life to the ego.
All
Okay.
right, you guys. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
See
All
you
right.
Tuesday.